Hello everyone and welcome to my channel again. So this is another video that I'm going to make on lasers in which we go deep into the architecture. So in the previous lecture we have already discussed about available lasers. So this is I'm showing you this graph, this picture uh, over here again. And what we discussed was there are in order to create the laser gain material we need the dopant and we need a host material. So these are possible ions that can be doped into these host materials, and after doping them with these material, they can give wavelength at these wavelengths. So for example, RPM can give at wavelengths at 2.9, 1.6. Titanium sapphire, for example, can give you wavelength from 615 nanometer to 1100 nanometer. And yeah, and ytterbium can give wavelengths uh, between can give wavelength around 1000 nanometer. Right. So let's quickly discuss this slide as well. So we have spontaneous emission, stimulated emission, and stimulated absorption. Two level we discuss can't give the laser system. Then we have three level system and four level system. Right. So let's go one by one to the things that we will need. So we need a gain material and we need to pump it. So this pump can be an electronic pump in the case of helium neon laser, or it can be an optical pump in the case of normal lasers that we have, or it can be yeah, in electrical pumping we also see it in laser diodes as well. And then what we need is a feedback mechanism. So for feedback mechanism we already discussed that we can create it with the help of two highly reflective mirrors. So right now I'm not considering any concave mirrors. I'm just considering simple cavity, that is uh, two plane mirrors in this case. One mirror is highly reflective, that is HR, and one is not highly reflective and there is a certain leakage. So for example, if this mirror is 100% reflective, then this mirror is not 100% reflective. It is, let's say, 99% reflective. So 1% of the beam will leak from this mirror. So when this beam leak from this system, then you will get your laser beam out from your cavity. If you see the power with respect to time, it should be constant as shown by this straight line over here. So a laser works in four different regimes. That is, it works in CW, by pure CW, that is the power remains constant with time. Then it works in Q switching, the power is changing with respect to time like that. And then multi-mode in which we have the sorry, let's first discuss CW mode. So in the CW mode locking, you get power that is varying in a very short interval of time. So you get very intense short bursted of pulses, and a Q-switch mode lock is a hybrid of this and that. Sorry, a hybrid of this and that. So when you get an hybrid, then you get these pulses modulated by this profile over here. Okay, so I picked this picture from one of the paper of Ursula Keller, who is a pioneer of laser physics. And I'm sorry that in most of my slides I forgot to insert references, but I really appreciate to all the people who did all this hard work. So these are not the pictures that I made it on my own. So in order to get an intense pulses like this, and we will just right now talk about CW mode locking and CW running, not Q switch and Q switch mode locking. But to be honest, like there is a very small difference when you get Q switch mode locking or pure CW Q switching. So we need some kind of mode locking mechanism. So in order to get CW mode locking, you need a mode locking mechanism inside a CW running laser. So this mode locking mechanism is over here. So when you insert a mode locking mechanism, the laser that was giving constant power with respect to time will start to give you very short pulses that normally known as ultra short pulses, because their pulse duration is normally within the duration of picosecond and femtosecond time scale. So inside the laser we have a lot of standing modes, because of course it's an optical cavity, but optical cavity can give rise to standing modes as well. So these are various standing modes inside the cavity, and only those modes will survive that are within the gain of this gain material, of this laser gain material. So this mode locking mechanism, what it is going to do, it is going to lock all these modes. Once it managed to lock all these modes, then you will start to get an ultra short laser out from your cavity. If not, then you won't be able to lock them, and then the laser will work freely, because there won't be like a constant phase relation between them, and therefore they won't work in pure CW mode logging mechanism. So how this gain comes into this equation? Well, this is a graph of titanium sapphire laser gain material. It has absorption and it has emission. So ideally, this emission needs to be at a certain line, which needs to be somewhere over here. But as we discussed in our previous lecture about broadening mechanisms, so instead of pure central line, this gain broadens and it gives you this broad gain starting from 640 and going all the way up to 1100 nanometer. So if these standing modes are within this gain material, then those standing modes will be able to survive within our gain material. So all we need to do is to lock these standing modes together to get ultra short pulses. It's a very simple uh, thing to understand, but since it's described in so much complicated way in the books, therefore is sometimes very really hard to follow. Right. So this material mode locking mechanism is normally based on saturable absorber. Saturable absorber is one of the passive means to mode lock a laser. There are active means, but we will talk about later in this lecture. In passive means, you are not actually giving anything electronically or physically to the laser system. You just insert some kind of mechanism inside, and the laser should give you these pulses on their own. So this mechanism in our case is based on a saturable absorber, and which is a material that you insert inside the cavity. This saturable absorber can be graphene, transition metal chalcogenides, carbon nanotubes, semiconductor crystals, or dyes. So this saturable absorber is I mistakenly placed this slide after that slide. It should be earlier. So mode locking. So there are four different kind of mode locking mechanisms. Two are active mode locking and two are passive mode locking. So active mode locking is based on acoustic optic modulator synchronized pump mode locking. These are known as active mode locking because when the laser is working, we are constantly giving some kind of active mechanism to the laser so that it can work in this regime. In passive mode locking, we have saturable absorber that we briefly discussed in the previous slide, and we have optical curve effect. So technically, I should first describe you acoustic and synchronized pump mode locking, but I won't going to do that. I will first going to describe you the role of saturable absorber. Once it's clear, then all the other three mechanisms will be piece of cake. So let's discuss the saturable absorber. So since we need a modulator kind of mechanism inside the laser, therefore the saturable absorber should be able to provide this kind of mechanism to you. Inside, of course, a saturable absorber is also a material. So therefore, it has ground state and it has excited state. So imagine if your electrons are sitting in your ground state and three photons arrive, then all these three photons will excite these electrons up to those states as shown over here. But imagine once you have uh, five photons, then they will be able to excite these three photons, but two photons will be able to manage to pass through. Sorry, I mistakenly shown three photons over here. They should be two photons over here. So two photons will manage to pass through this saturable absorber. So what will happen that after every cavity round trip, the photon uh, density will start to increase and it will give you mode logging. How? So let's first discuss about different optical materials and then we will come to the saturable absorber again. So in your laser material that in your solid state laser cavity that we discussed earlier, you have two mirrors and you have two mirrors over here to control the feedback, and you have two prisms over here. There you should have two prisms over here as well. And over here I'm pumping it optically by using a CW pump beam to this laser gain material. So the cavity elements that we need are gain material, cavity mirror, dispersion compensation elements that is prism and grating, optical coupler, and elements for mode logging. And over here I will be just talking about passive mode logging. So let's first discuss about gain material. So gain material we already discussed. You need dopant, you need host material. Let's talk about other materials, that is the cavity mirrors. So cavity mirrors needs to be highly reflective at the laser wavelength, because if they are not highly reflective at the laser wavelength, then some laser beam can leak through these mirrors, which is something that you don't need. So therefore, one criteria is they needs to be highly reflective, and the another criteria is they needs to be highly reflective at the pump beam, which is very unusual because normally mirrors are not reflective at certain wavelengths. Sorry, at transmittive at certain wavelength. They are reflective at all the wavelength. But in the field of optics, you design a special mirror that is highly reflective at certain wavelength and highly transmittive at certain wavelength. So let's say I'm considering this mirror that I pick it a graph of a graph of a mirror that is available on Thor Labs. Thor Labs is a very big company that provides optical components to the industry. And I picked this graph from the website, and you can see there is this special mirror is highly transmittive at this wavelength. Sorry, highly is not transmittive in this region, but highly transmittive in this region. So therefore, let's say if so, what you need to do over here, you need to find a laser mirror for your cavity that is highly reflective at the pump beam, but highly reflective at the laser beam. So therefore, if I'm using this mirror, so this mirror can be used for application where the laser beam is providing you wavelength in this region because it is highly reflective over here, but you are pumping it in this region which is not highly reflective in this, therefore transmission is high. But this graph is not suitable for this application. Why? Because normally laser, not normally, always you pump the laser beam, you pump the laser crystal at lower wavelengths and you get the output wavelength at higher wavelengths because of the energy gain graph that we discussed earlier. But But you understand my point, what I am trying to say, that you need to have this special mirror that is highly reflective and highly transmittive at different wavelengths. Now we need dispersion compensation in the laser as well. So normally when you get ultra short pulses due to Fourier transform relation, when you get these ultra short pulses, their spectrum is very broad. So in the case of CW laser, the CW laser spectrum width is almost around zero point 0.1 nanometer, or even it can below as well. They are very, what I'm trying to say is they are very narrow. But in ultra short pulses, they are not really very narrow. They are extremely broad. In some cases, it can go up to 100 of nanometer. So if they are hundreds of nanometer, so we know that since they are passing through all these elements, that is a laser gain material, they are reflecting from these mirrors. These mirrors are specially designed, so they are not ordinary mirrors. So what normally happens is, since you have in your laser pulse you have different components of wavelength, so some will be moving faster than the other. You remember we discussed a slide in our one of our previous lecture series in which I was talking about the speed of light. So therefore some components will be traveling faster than the other. So what you need to do is you need some kind of dispersion compensation mechanism inside your cavity that slows down the fast moving component and speed up the slow moving component. So this is achieved by using a pair of prism over here. So the first prism pair disperses the beam, and then the longer part needs to travel more amount of glass than the slower part. So therefore when they come out at the exit, their speed is, or their traveling duration is going to be the same. So this is one another thing that you need inside your laser cavity. Another thing is optical coupler. So we can consider the same graph over here. So let's say if your laser cavity is you use again the same kind of mirror, but in this case your mirror, of course in this case, is highly reflected in this wavelength. It doesn't need to be highly reflected, it needs to be slightly transmitted. So once it's highly transmitted, then you will get your optical beam, your laser out from your laser cavity. And finally you need a saturable absorber inside your laser gain material. You can either insert it like that, or you can insert it inside the cavity. Why I have introduced this special picture? Because in order for the saturable absorber to work, you need to focus the laser beam inside it. Why? This is something that we are going to see in the next few slides. And this is one another way to pump the laser beam. In this case, you don't need to pass through this cavity mirror, and this is one of the geometry that people normally use to pump previous lasers when they were using dye lasers. So how a saturable absorber normally works? So previously when I talked to you about this kind of mechanism, this kind of thing, so this picture, then I lied a bit to you. Of course, in ideal case it needs to be constant with respect to time, but in real case it's not ideal. It fluctuates a slide bit. And when we and another reason that I was talking about focusing the beam inside the saturable absorber was because if you consider a large area as over here, then you will have a lot of electrons sitting over here in that focal region. So therefore you need more and more power. But inside the laser cavity, sometimes this power is not, sometimes you don't have enough power. So therefore you focus the beam into the saturable absorber. Once you focus the beam into the saturable absorber, therefore you have very small volume, and that is in that small volume you have less number of electron. And when once you have less amount of electron, then you get this kind of picture over here. So all these five photons will be able to excite three electrons. Let's say if in that focal regime you have three electrons and two photons will manage to pass through. So right now they are five photons, but assume they are two is typo on my end. So let's consider this laser cavity. So we discuss this is my optical coupler. This is dispersion compensation mirror. You can use mirrors as well, but dispersion compensation mirror is doing the same thing. You're pumping it at a wavelength 980 this laser crystal by using this mirror. You have this cavity mirror. And this is your CSAM, which is a semiconductor saturable absorber over here. So what I was discussing that in ideal case it needs to be constant, but in real case it's fluctuating. So now this cavity is going to give me ultra short pulses. Imagine you have this fluctuation over here, but luckily there is one fluctuation that is strong enough that is going to hit this saturable absorber. And now imagine only two photons manage to reflect from this saturable absorber. So imagine these are five photons and two photons are managed to pass through. So once these two photons will go into the cavity, they will gain energy from this crystal. They will go like this, tuck 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 tuck. Something will come out, will go tuck 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 tuck, and then it will gain more gain from this laser gain material. So the pulse that was noise before will not be noise anymore. It will be slightly it has because it has gained uh, a bit of power from the laser gain material. So once it will strike this saturable absorber, instead of getting two photons, you will get more number of photons. So the pulse that was immature and that was noise will not be noise anymore, and it will get gain after every round trip again and again, again and again, and it will get gain again and again, again and again. Now now how this thing is going to give you ultra short pulses, because this saturable absorber is providing you the modulation. How? Because every time this immature pulse is going to strike, is going to give you reflection, but not for the noise whose intensity is lower. And this modulation is always after when this pulse makes this round trip time. And in order to lock all these, you need to have modulation that is working at exactly the same frequency as your laser cavity. And since it's always reflecting at a certain to that frequency when the pulse is making your round trip time, therefore its frequency will match exactly with the frequency that saturable absorber is giving. And since these two frequencies are equal, therefore you will get ultra short pulse out from your laser cavity. Now let's talk about other mechanism as well. So another mechanisms are acoustic optic modulator, synchronous pump mode locking, and optical curve effect. Since it's clear to you how a saturable absorber works, it's very easy to understand how acoustic optic modulator and synchronized pump mode locking works. All you need is some kind of mechanism inside your laser cavity that is able to provide you this feedback mechanism that should be equal to the cavity round trip or multiple of cavity round trip time or frequency. But not let's talk about what's going to happen when it's multiple. Let's just focus on when it is exactly equal to the uh, round trip time or the frequency. So this is one example for acoustic optic modulator. So for acoustic optic mode lock laser, so you have So this picture I pick it from the from the net, and but there are other pictures as well available over there. So you're pumping your laser gain material. You have your laser gain material over here. So it's going to create the laser beam. It will reflect from this laser resonator mirror, from this mirror, and then you have a mod. Forget about these two elements. So, and you have a modulator, and this is your optical coupler. So we need to run the modulator, which is normally an electro-optic modulator, at a frequency that is equal to the frequency of this round trip time of the laser cavity. So they what is going to do is going to increase and decrease the gain of the cavity. So it can be a shutter inside, or it can be something that becomes transparent for the cavity round trip time, but not but remains opaque for the other time. So if you have something that can provide you this kind of mechanism, then your this cavity will be able to provide you ultra short pulses. Another mechanism that I'm going to present over here is based on synchronized pump mode locking. In synchronized pump mode locking, instead of using a saturable absorber and a modulator, you directly pumped the laser by using another mode lock laser. Since you are pumping the gain material with the pump laser, therefore the output that you will get will also get a mode lock pulse. In this case, the criteria is if this laser is working, let's say at 100 megahertz, the round trip time or the frequency of this laser of this cavity, external cavity, needs to be 100 megahertz. Therefore, I have this delta X over here that is trying to change the position of this mirror to exactly match the frequency of this laser gain material. Now let's talk about an optical Kerr effect. Again, in optical Kerr effect, the same process is going on. But luckily, in optical Kerr effect, since it's a passive technique, therefore you don't need any kind of electronics inside the laser. That's one of the reason people prefer passive mode locking, because you don't need expensive electronics or external something that's running the laser. Because in this case, since you will be running the laser by using optical modulator, therefore it will increase the cost of the laser. So, what is optical Kerr effect? Optical Kerr effect is a special effect. All you need to do is to insert a material inside the laser cavity that focus the laser beam for high intensity pulse, but not for the CW for the CW laser. So normally laser gain materials or other glasses has this unique property that when you focus on a very high ultra short laser pulse, they focus the light, and when the pulse is not high intense enough, they don't focus. So the CW laser or the lower intensity laser beam will easily manage to pass through without being focused. This kind of optical Kerr effect we can get easily from the laser gain material, but sometimes people insert special materials to get more and more focusing because it's a material property. So if your cavity is able to provide this kind of focusing phenomena, all you need to do is tap this laser, because because the optical cavities has this phenomena. When you tap this, when you tap the cavity, they create more of these noise. So as soon as you tap it, they will create more noise, and this noise will disappear, and it will all will achieve this ideal state over here. But in this kind of tapping mechanism, since it will create noise, some noise can be very intense in time. So imagine you have an imagine you have this very intense noise, and it managed to pass through like that. So once it managed to pass through, the same feature, such same approach will will prevail over here as well. It will go through all these parts, will come back, and then it will not be a noise, but it's an amplified noise, because you remember you tap the cavity, and it will not only pass through this laser gain material, but will also gain energy. So when it will come back after this round trip from here, it won't be a noise anymore, but an intense noise, and therefore you will get an ultra short laser pulse out from your laser cavity. So in order to understand it more clearly, let's do bit simulation. So I have this cavity over here, and I have a mirror over here. Let's remove this mirror, and you can see that this cavity is working very nicely, no problem at all. Is working very nicely, no problem at all. And those who are seeing this video first, just to remind you, in one of my previous video, I have placed a link for this software that you can download. And in the same video, I am explaining you how to run this software. So now imagine this laser crystal is providing optical curve effect. And in order to simulate it, I'm going to insert this lens over here. And optical curve effect lens is normally very intense and is very intense. So therefore, uh, let me first remove it and then insert it again. So I have this lens over here. So this lens effect is normally very intense enough. So I'm not disturbing anything over here. What I'm disturbing is just gain material and this lens. And this lens is normally very strong. So let's say lens is 15 millimeter lens. And you see this cavity is not working now. So what you need to do is to do slight adjustment in your cavity. So therefore optical curve effect cavity is very sensitive to perturbation or alignment. So you need to do a precise alignment, and you see this cavity is going to work over here. So previously this cavity was working when these mirrors are over here, but now they are working when this mirror is very close to that. So what will happen once you align your cavity like that? All you need to do is you to tap your cavity. Once you tap your cavity, it will create an intense pulse, and that intense pulse will manage to propagate in your cavity, and you will get ultra short pulses out from your cavity. So finally, I'm going to talk about the fiber cavity. The same things apply to fiber cavity. There is no difference in comparison to fiber cavity or a solid state cavity. In a fiber cavity, all the elements are made of fiber friendly components. You have an optical coupler like solid state cavity. You have gain material. You have saturable absorber, and you have a WDM. WDM is a special device that allows you to pump the beam, but it doesn't allow the signal beam to come out from the cavity. So it's a special kind of device. An isolator is also an special device. Why? Because it forces the cavity to work in one direction. If if we don't use an isolator, then what will happen? The pulses will propagate in both directions. They can collapse and they can destroy the laser phenomena. So therefore, we need to force them to work in the one direction. Then PC, that is polarization controller, is another uh, component that you will need in your laser cavity, so that the laser can work only at certain polarization, and then you can get your laser beam out from your cavity. So this is what normally happens uh, for inside the laser, and how to get an ultra short laser pulses out from the cavity. And if you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask. Drop me a message, and please like and share this video with your friends as well. Thank you very much.